Hello, I am Jonathan Richard, the Operations and Development Manager for Volunteers in Public Schools. Today, I'm sitting down with Mrs. Susan Billings for the latest interview in our donor interview series. Susan has been a devoted VIPS reading friend since 2014 and is also a member of our Giving Society. Susan, thank you for sitting down with me today. Why don't you tell us a little about yourself and where you're from and what brought you to Baton Rouge?
Good morning. Thank you, Jonathan. My husband and I moved to Baton Rouge in 1978 from Cleveland, Ohio, where he was completing his medical training. And we moved here where he had a position at the Baton Rouge Clinic in hematology and oncology. We had met in Vanderbilt, after Vanderbilt in Nashville, Tennessee, and that's where we started our lives together. I originally grew up in Houston, with a few years in South America with my family, where my father was an engineer. Oh. That led me to be very interested in studying Spanish, and I was a Spanish major and a Spanish teacher. And I found that when we came to Baton Rouge, I knew Janot LeDuc, who had started VIPS many years ago, and I became interested in VIPS when our church, First Presbyterian Church, adopted Buchanan School and asked for volunteers to work with the students in the reading program, which I began, I think, in probably 2006, and then did that for a few years and then didn't do it again until 2014. And I find it one of the most rewarding volunteer jobs I've ever had, because I'm allowed to work with the students who are all kindergartners or first graders and develop a relationship with them, and I'm able to give them a little leg up in some of their work. And it's been so much fun for me to have those children and then to see them at the school year after year, because I usually find them when I go back in the fall and ask them how they're doing.
Well, that's great. And most of our students, they really just need a little extra attention and a little extra encouragement to really make those gains to be able to succeed. So in addition to your years of service, you made your first contribution to VIPS way back in 2003, and then you've been a consistent donor since 2007. You even joined the Giving Society in 2019. Why do you feel moved to contribute your time and financially to VIPS?
Well, I think public schools are very, very important in all communities, and especially in our community. I attended public schools in Houston, and I think that they're the way for our country to move ahead. Everybody needs to have a good education, and I feel like it's a wonderful opportunity to just help nudge a few children who need a little extra help with volunteers in the community. And I think it works both ways. We are blessed by the children, and we hope that children can learn from our experiences and having time spent with us on their basic reading skills. I feel like if I can make a financial contribution as well, that will help support the organization Volunteers in Public Schools. And that's what my husband and I have been committed to doing.
Absolutely. And we greatly appreciate it. And we hear all the time from volunteers how much they love being able to work with the students, but then they also feel blessed by working with the kids. So would you mind, speaking of, sharing one of your favorite memories from working with one of your students with us?
Well, I really actually have several, because over the years, I mean, almost every year there's something really, really special about the children. But one particular child was a kindergartner, and he was having some trouble reading. And so you pick your own student, but right. The teachers select the students that need help. And so really you don't know anything about your children. You might just see that, well, it might be a student who has English as a second language, which I've done a couple of times, or you don't know what kind of child you're going to get. But I was working with this little boy, and he was doing quite well. He was having a little rough go, but he was very attentive, very cooperative. And one day I met his mother, and she had told me that he was a premature baby and weighed 1.5 pounds when he was born. Well, that is a rough thing to grow up, and he was really doing quite well. And at the end of the year, he received the award for the most improved student. And
oh, that's fantastic.
I thought that was great. So then the next year when I came back, I found him on the playground. I asked this teacher if I could speak to him. And when he saw me, he said, "I've been missing you."
Oh.
And then he ran so lickety-split over to say hello and give me a hug. And it was nice. And I've continued to follow him. I think he's probably in the 4th grade now. Of course, I haven't seen him this year.
Right.
I've had other experiences with some of the students that I continue to see. And one more thing, this was a very rewarding year for me, because sometimes I have had students who have been in the gifted and talented program as well, that maybe they were doing well, but they just needed a little extra encouragement. So I had a student that was not in the gifted and talented program, but she was English as a second language, and her primary language was Chinese. And so I began to work with her, and she was very smart, doing well. And then at the midterm, her teacher had her tested, and she moved into the gifted and talented program. And I felt like that, just having a little extra attention, because she was curious about everything. And she would say, "May I ask you something?" And then she would have all these questions, and we would talk about maps. And I brought a map of the world so she could see where China was, and, just something extra. And then she was a star in the new class and just caught right up with those other students. And that was very rewarding for me.
I can imagine so. And as we always say, a lot of times all we need is just a little extra encouragement. So what would you like to tell our viewers who may be considering contributing to VIPS for the first time, or even joining the Giving Society?
Well, I think that we would be in a very bad situation if we didn't have VIPS, because I think the volunteers make a big difference in the communities. And I think that the schools are welcoming to people coming into the classrooms. And I've developed relationships with some of the teachers over the years, and it will reward any volunteer as well as it would reward the children. And financially, I know this is an important position, and it needs any of the contributions that can be given to it. The people who at VIPS have been very supportive of us this year, especially because we've been virtual, and they've tried so hard to help us work virtually and send out newsletters and encourage the volunteers. And I think supporting VIPS is an important organization in our community.
Okay, thank you. We couldn't have said it better ourselves. Thank you for sitting down with us today, and thank you to all of our viewers for taking the time to watch this video.